So now we need to talk about research. Oftentimes you hear designers saying they want to make research, they want to research. From my experience, I usually ask, what are they researching? So, because I'm fortunate to be among you guys and I got to answer a couple of questions on a daily basis. From those questions I usually respond to when it comes to brand identity design, I discover that a lot of designers actually don't know what to research. When they ask them to research, what they always look out for is to look at the color that their competitors are using, the logo of the competitors, look at the logos in the industry, how does it look and likes. See, those things are important. And that's why I must tell you that you are brilliant. Yes, you are brilliant. And that's the reason why we're just giving just a little touch to get us on the track. For you to know that, you need to check the brand that happens to be the competitor of your clients, for you to check their color, their logo, their typography, so that you're not going to create the same thing that looks like theirs. That shows how good you are. However, there is more to look out for when it comes to brand identity design. And that's the reason why I structure this research and development in a way that it can be a template that you can use to carry out research. So for every step that you want to take in coming up with a successful result for your clients, I'm going to be telling you the objective of that step and the action plan that you need to take. So if you are with me, I would like us to get started. So the very first one to do is that you should conduct the initial client discovery, which you have done using your questionnaire. The objective of these things that you've just done is to do what? Is to understand the client visions, goals, and unique value proposition. So if you do that, if you ask me what are the action plan, the action plan is what you've done before, because we've said it in the last class. That's number one, set up meeting or series of interviews with the founders. When I say series of interview with the founders, what do I mean? Because sometimes after you've done collecting those details using your questionnaires, you might be working on the project and then you realize that there's some decision you're about to make that you're not really clear of. Don't assume or fill in the gap for your clients. That's the reason why you need to call them for another meeting. Let's take, for instance, it's a rebranding project. And then the client has a particular logo that they're using before. And then you look at that logo, the logo looks good, but the clients demand rebrand. So after you collect the whole of the details, and then you start working on the project, and along the way you discover that there's no really reason why they should rebrand this thing, because this logo is good. Just like the owner of Nike called on you now to come and redesign their logo. That will be one of the most deadly projects you are going to work on, despite how good it can be. Why? Because a lot of people already resonate with that logo. You need to create another logo that is not going to take them away from the current logo, and that's one of the difficult jobs to get done. So you might be trying to create something new, or still try to maintain what they have before while you give it your own touch. You might try something and you'll be like, the previous one is better than this. Is there any reason why we should just rebrand these things? Or is there? So you might be worried. You have to call for another interview to clarify your trouble. So also it can happen for new projects. For example, you might be working on a particular project and you're going to discover that after every you started working on the project and the client tell you that the name of our brand is Remy and Kola. Then you start working on the project after they review the whole of the story that makes them want to use that particular name, as you'll be able to see in this particular project. If you check the questionnaire that you download, you can as well download it in the comments, in the description part of this video. You find the link to all the resources of this class there, so you can download it. So if you look at the response to those questionnaires, you get to see that Remy and Kola, they are close friends that wants to start this fashion brand of a thing just for them to prove to Remy's father that Remy can as well create legacy without the money or the influence of the father. So for that reason, they named their brand Remy and Kola. So you start working on the project and you get to realize that, oh, for a better PR or for a better kind of representation or so, for them to be accepted globally and make it easy for their client to call them. Start working on the project and you discover that instead of Remy and Kola, why can't they use what? Remco. Okay, that is Remy then Kola together. So before you can make that kind of a decision and you've seen that it's going to be a better thing for them, you need to come for another interview. So that's the reason why we said there might be just one interview or series of interview. I just cited those example as one of those difficulties or challenges that you can face when you're working on a project that can require you or require you to have other form of interview with the clients. So under this, when you're done with this, the next thing you want to ask is detailed question about their target audience. So remember, you've asked question about their target audience before. You might be working on it, and then, for example, Remco, they are targeting celebrities, right? So there are some rich people that are not celebrity, and they are also fashion enthusiasts. You might be working on it, and then you discover that these people exist, but they didn't talk about them. You can call them back and reach out to them that, oh, do you mean that you are not targeting this set of people? Because they can as well buy into your product and they can get attracted with this kind of a thing we want to build. We can have another set of meeting with them. So that's the action plan for this first step. Then the second step is the what? Market research. So you want to do market research. What's the objective of you doing marketing research? Is to understand the industry or the kind of personality that the brand wants to show the world. For example, for Remco, we are looking into what? We are looking into a luxury kind of brand. So you might want to understand the luxury fashion market, especially within and outside the region that your client is targeting. So if your client is in Nigeria and they are clothing brand, you might want to examine and research on clothing brand in Nigeria as well outside Nigeria. Do you understand that now? So that's the objective, to understand the industry within and outside the region that your audience or your client is targeting. So when you're done, what are the action plan? Number one, industry analysis. Research the luxury fashion industry globally and within Nigeria. Identify trends, challenges, and opportunities, because the client you are working with is in Nigeria. If your client is in UK, you examine all of that in the UK and also outside UK. Competitive analysis. So this competitive analysis is very, very important, because in most cases, you might not get all your answer in one place. Yes, for example, for this particular brand that we are working for, their competitors include what? Lisa, Folawiyo, Tiffany Amber, and Mike. So you want to, when you look at these three brands, they are top brands. So we could not get enough details about them on Google. We read about them, check Wikipedia, understand much about these three brands. However, we tend to understand them more when we go to their social media handle. So on their social media handle, that gives us another information about them entirely. So you want to look at all these places that you can find information about all these competitors. Note a lot of things while you are researching. So how do they do their marketing? What are their model looks like? What are the things that they believe on? All of those things are what you want to research about them. And when you know that, document them and then move to audience research. You want to gather data on the target demographic. If you can gather data about the target demographic, what are the things that makes them want to look the way they want to look? So for example, Remco is a fashion brand, right? So what are the things that fashion enthusiasts between 30 to 45 years of age, what do they actually want that makes them become a fashion enthusiast? What are the kind of party they go for? What are the kind of dress they put on? Who are the kind of people they mingle with? What are the kind of things that attract them? All of those things are what you want to look into and put in place that can help you to understand them very well. Then the last thing is cultural research. Now, I will tell you categorically well that if you don't do cultural research very well, you might lose a lot of things. Reason because the typography that they are going to understand and admire in the US, it's not the same thing that they are going to admire in the UK. It's not the same thing they are going to admire in Nigeria. Part of the book that we recommended for this course is what? Why Fonts Matter. When you read that book, you tend to understand that for every region, they have their own choice of typography. The color that you are using in Nigeria to represent peace might be the color they are using in China to represent bad news. It can be what they are using to represent what? War. Don't think the entire story of color psychology you are reading on internet or that you are seeing on social media is general. It's not general. And that's the reason why you need to do cultural research about the brand that you are working on. So if you are able to do cultural research, you tend to understand that, oh, this color means royal, but in this particular part of region where my client is targeting, this color does not symbolize luxury. This is what it does symbolize. And that's the reason why when they send you job to review, you have to understand everything about that project before you start reviewing based on general knowledge. That's what I do when students send me their projects to review. I don't just use what? General understanding to review their work. I use what? A particular solution. If you're a mathematics student, I know you're going to understand that under differential equation. General solution and a particular solution. Don't worry, I'm a mathematics teacher, and then I enjoy that part as well. So once you're done with this, then you're done with the second search, which is the market research. So we go to the third part, which is what? Audience profiling. So what are the objectives of audience profiling? Is to develop a deep understanding about their ideal customer. So for every customer that they are targeting, there are people that are the ideal one. For example, at Fixacard, we've organized different sort of classes. And then because they are expensive, a lot of beginners could not what? Join that class. We've seen some beginners who don't have this money. Immediately they know that the class is coming up, they start saving up bit by bit. And before we launch the class, their money has completed and they are able to join. Those are ideal customers for us when it comes to beginners and intermediates. So you want to do what? A thorough research to understand everything about your ideal customer. That's the objective of audience profiling. So under this, what are the actions that you need to take? That is things you need to watch out for. You need to do either survey or interview. If you look at this here, there was a project that Shaggy Aviv worked on about US opening. So before they come up with that logo that we have for US Open today, they ask and make survey that when you hear this word US Open, what comes to your mind? People talk about golf. And because they don't relate it to tennis, that makes them say, okay, for us to represent this logo, let's have something that can symbolize tennis to be part of this logo. So these are part of the things that might want to make you run this particular survey or interview. So if possible, conduct survey or interviews with potential customers in the target demographic to understand their preferences, pain points, and also motivations. So then we move to the next one. Under this, you also have to do personal development. How do you do personal development? You have to create a detailed customer persona based on the collected data, including demographic, psychographic, and behavioral patterns. So if you can do all of this, then you are done with the audience profiling. You can go to the fourth step in your research, which is what? Brand positioning development. So how do you develop brand positioning? But before we develop brand positioning, you can ask, what is the objective? The objective is to define the unique position in the market. Because we need to niche down. If you don't niche down, then there might be a problem for your clients to be able to know their ideal or target their ideal audience. For example, we at Fixed Agency, what we did is that we serve startup service-based business. So whenever we are trying to market, our solution frame is always targeted towards those people. Are you getting where I'm coming from? Does that mean that if a product-based startup wants to work with us or an established brand, does that mean we are not going to work with them? Because we are going to work with them. Yes, because it's like a magnet. If you want to use magnets to pick a particular pin among set of pins, it's going to attract bunch numbers of pins, but you are going to be the one to remove the one you don't want. However, you can leave some to be part of the magnet, but you never remove the one that you are actually targeting. So that's it. So I hope you understand that aspect. So that's the reason for your brand positioning development. What are the action plans under this? Positioning statements. You want to know how to write down positioning statement, which I have actually taken you through how to do that with very easy. You have to use SWOT analysis in this place. Perform a SWOT analysis. That is, know their strength, weakness, opportunities, and what? Threats. So if you know all of these, if you analyze them very well, it helps you to solidify its market positioning. So the last thing is competitor mapping. So compare your client, that is Remco, for example. You have to compare their positioning against that of their competitors, and you must identify what? Their unique space in the market. So once you do that, you move to the fifth step, which is what? Brand story and manifesto creation. Oftentimes, people always think brand story is the same thing as brand manifesto. Obviously, they are not the same. So, what's the objective of brand story and brand manifesto? Craft a compelling narrative that resonates with the brand's vision and target audience. So, if you can tell the story of the brand that does what? That resonates well with their visions and as well as their target audience, that helps you with a good storytelling strategy, which we are going to be discussing probably in our branding 102. But in this branding 101, we'll not really delve into that. Forget that, it's part of the scope of this project. We are not going to look into it. So let's move on. So what are the action plan? Story development. Use insights from the founder's interview to write the brand story. From what you gather from the clients about the story of how they start the business, from there, you pick what the brand story is going to look like. I believe you can do that. And if you cannot do that, you can ask ChatGPT to help you in doing that. Yeah. So that's why you have AI. So if I tell you that AI is not going to take your job, you just have to utilize it very well. And it's make your work faster and simpler. So let's move on. Brand manifesto. Develop a brand manifesto to what? Encapsulates what? The brand beliefs and their purpose, emphasizing the emotional connection with their audience. That's how you write down your what? Brand manifesto. And if you're done with that, you go to the sixth step, which is what? Define the brand values and persona. Why do you need this? It's to establish the core values and personality traits of the brand. What are the action plans? Identify what? Their values. Because the client already told you from the interview point, bring it down to this place, understand it very well, and define it appropriately, better than how the client does. Then the second is what? Persona crafting. You have to draft what? The brand persona. Are they innovative? Are they confident? Are they professional? Are they sage? From here, you'll be able to pick what? The persona of that particular brand. Now note, this is the mistake that people always what do when they want to pick what? The brand archetypal mix. They always think that a brand is an healthcare brand, then they must be what? A caregiver. So if you do that, you'll be quite predictable and you don't want that. So what you just need to do is to try as much as possible to dive away from what is obvious and pick what is actually going to work instead of you just assuming. That is a care brand, then it has to be what? It has to be a caregiver. No. All right. So go to the seventh step, which is what? Create brand messaging and taglines. So what are the objectives of creating brand messaging and taglines? Is the fact that if you develop key messaging and tagline that communicates the brand's essence, then you are good to go. So what are the action plan? You have to know their mission statement, tagline, and then you'll be able to what? You'll be able to come up with some. You can check our Instagram page where we have a complete video that talks about taglines. If you do that, it's going to help you at Fix a Card. Do well to follow us there because it's going to help us to reach more audience. So let's move on. Then the next thing is the competitive analysis. That is competitive landscape. You have to do the analysis of their competitors. What's the objective of this? The objective of this is to gain a comprehensive understanding of the competitors. So the environment that your client is going, what is happening there, for them to gain a better understanding of it, you have to do what? The competitive landscape analysis. What are the action plan? You have to do the competitor research. Conduct a detailed analysis of competitors' brand positioning, market strategies, and customer engagement. Once you're able to do that, you do the what? The next thing you want to do there is to do differentiation mapping. For you to do differentiation mapping, all you just needs to do is to identify areas where your client can differentiate itself and highlight this in the brand strategy when you're talking to your client or when you're putting the documents together, so that your clients will know what gives them edge over those people. Remember, I always tell people, when you want to design for a brand, don't just come to make that brand different from what has been existing. You have to let them key into what has been existing and bring in what? Something that can make them stand out. If you make them different and are not doing some part of things or all of the things that the existing brands are doing, you don't give what? You don't give the existing brand's audience to leave those brands to come and pick you. Take for instance, if I want to change my network right now, I have to consider what the network is giving me currently. So the network that I'm going to, are they going to give me the same thing? If yes, then there's no reason why I should go there. But if they're going to be giving me the same thing and they have one thing that make them better than the current one I'm using, why not going? I'm going to go. So that's the reason why you must let your client fit in before you make them stand out. That's the quote, guys. So we'll move to the next one. The step number 9, which is what? Define brand voice and tone. How do your brand wants to talk? Because this is very important to the storytelling. How do your clients wants to tell their story? Because storytelling is very important. When somebody wants to tell you story, it's not only the story that you want to listen to. The same story that somebody is going to tell you that you're going to be sleeping is the same story that somebody is going to tell you and you don't just want to close your eye. Yes, it depends on who is telling the story and then the tone in which the person is using to tell the story. They might be saying the same thing, but saying it differently goes a long way. So how will your clients sound in the market is very important. How do they want to pass their message? That's why I tell you, if you are not doing all of this for your clients, you are not building brand identity. You are just designing logo. And I know you don't want to be that, because those prices that you are hearing outside that you also want to start charging, these are the things that they do outside what you think they are actually doing. I hope you understand this. So storytelling is very important, that if it is not coherent, then it cannot yield a good result. If they meet you on social media, if they meet you physically, if they meet you in an event, anywhere they meet you is the same thing. If they now finally subscribe to buy from you, they must meet the same thing that you promised them. Storytelling is very powerful, but it's not history. So let's move on. What are the objectives of this? Is to determine how your brand will communicate with its audience. What are the action plans that you need to take care? You have to give them voice guidelines. Develop guidelines for the brand voice. How will they speak in all communications? Is very, very important. What's the tone adjustment? Define the tone variations of different types of communication. Formal for press release, warm and engaging for social media. You see? So you have to understand all of this. Don't worry, calm. We are going to do that together, and then you are going to see how we put together that of Remco, and you can benefit a lot from those results. It can help you create a better brand. That's the reason why we are here. So if you are yet to download the document, check the description part of this video. Click on the link, get the document download, and you have enough things to study and understand. So let's move on to the 10th step. The 10th step is the what? Develop the brand look and feel. So to develop the brand look and feel, there are some couple of things I want to first of all clarify before I tell you the objective. Or better still, let me tell you the objective. The objective of developing brand look and feel is to establish the visual identity and the aesthetic of the client. So here, a lot of designers, when you are working on your mood board, I can tell you categorically well that logo should not be part of your mood board. And that's why you see that when some people create mood board, they are talking about a fashion brand. What is building doing in a fashion brand? What does it have to do with the landscape? What does it have to do with this? It's because what you are trying to create is mood and feel. Are you getting it now? It's not logo. Are you getting where I'm coming from now? And that's why things that you need to have in your mood board, they include what? Color, typography, imagery, and texture. All these are what defines the mood and the look of your brand, not the logo. However, if you know you want to include logo, then you basically want to change the mood board to stylescape, because there's difference between a mood board and a stylescape. But for this project, it's mood board that we are talking about. Why? Because we are the one that is doing everything for this particular client. It's not like they've come with us with already answered questions. So if they come with us with a mood board, we have to return back to them with a stylescape. If the clients give you their mood board, you have to go with a stylescape to show them that you understand the mood board, and if you actually interpret the mood board very well, does this look like what they are saying? If yes, you go ahead. Have you seen the difference and how to use the mood board and the stylescape? Let's move on there. We'll go to the last place, which is what? Consolidate the brand strategy. Put everything together. Compile all your research and strategic elements into a cohesive brand strategy document, and then you structure the document and send it to the client. Not just send it to the client, have a meeting with them. Then we are going to discuss everything in that strategy document and tell them how the implementation and when the implementation is going to start. So if you're able to do this, then the last thing, which is the presentation, is to call for the meeting, and then you tell them, present it before them, take them through everything, and tell them how they are going to implement it and when they are going to start implementing it. If you're able to do this, then you are done with your research phase. So I hope you understand this very well now. So now let's look at the brand strategy documents that we prepare for this particular brand. So we look at this together, and that will lead us to what the design phase is going to look like. So catch you in the next class, guys.